My name's Stephen Downey, and you are very welcome to episode 39 of the Mindful Living Guide. This week, I'm talking to a really lovely person, Helen Colgan of Helen Colgan Healing Heart. Helen is an energy healer, a reflexologist, Reiki, lymphatic drainage. That's the first time I've been to say it. I keep mixing up the word. But so many different treatments, and actually fascinating chatting about each and every one of them with Helen. But she's also a psychic medium as well, and it's just a fascinating conversation about energy healing, about grounding, about just stepping into our own self, and Helen's journey from a work life balance that just did not suit her, and realizing that she needs to follow a different journey, a different path in life. And the universe has opened up many times along this journey to show Helen the right way to go. And I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope that you do too. So sit back and enjoy this week's episode of the Mindful Living Guide. So you're very welcome to the Mindful Living Guide. This week I have another great guest, and somebody who contacted me about a year or two ago to say I was dreaming about you. And straight away I was fascinated to get to know this person more. This person is Helen Colgan of Healing Heart. Helen draws on the life forces to bring your best energy flow to you through energetic clearing, chakra balancing, and focus by tapping into what your energy system needs physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Helen, it is so great to have you on the Mindful Living Guide.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
And I'll definitely be asking you to expand about that phone call that I got there a while ago when you were walking around and shocked and thinking, who is Stephen Downey? Who is Stephen Downey? I think it's an amazing story. But for now, can you just give people just a background into yourself?
Oh, thank you. I remember that dream so vividly, and seeing your name, and I could see your face, even though I didn't know who you were. And I think it's very important because in telling this, because it was me listening to the little whispers or the nudges that we get from the universe. And I remember I said it to my friend Donna. I had a dream about Stephen Downey. Seriously, I don't know who this Stephen Downey is, but I could see him. And Donna said, he's a mindful living coach, Helen. You need to contact him. And I goes, no way. So I can't. So I listened to that nudge, randomly rang you and said, would you like to join?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember what I said, but I remember it was during lockdown, and we exchanged just a little bit about ourselves. And I thought it was lovely that I did follow that nudge.
And it's amazing though
And here I
when
am.
you just get that feeling inside. So, geez, there's something. The universe is telling me something here. And I remember we had a fantastic chat on Instagram, on your own page on Instagram at the time, and it was just a lovely conversation that flowed. And I said, like, I'll have to get you on the show. And at the time, I had hung up the microphone for a good while there. So as soon as I started the season, I said, well, we'll have to get you on. So if you give the listener just a bit of background about yourself and just about Helen Colgan Healing Heart.
Oh, thank you. I love what I do. And I suppose I started out my journey with reflexology for my daughter. She had digestive issues, so I never actually intended to be a therapist or open my own business. And I remember I said, right, I'll go for this and I'll do it. And then I added massage. My mom had swollen legs, so I added lymphatic drainage. I added oncology. So I was always doing it for somebody else, as in this therapy would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And but behind it, the energy work kept coming in. So I looked into Reiki. I loved what that brought, the clarity and the focus, the deep sleep. Through my own sessions, then I was moved towards the angels. So I think I've been guided every step of the way, and I'm listening to those little nudges that we spoke about at the beginning. So it sometimes can be scary, or a lot of fear will come in.
Hmm.
But I've listened. So my practice now is mainly energy work. And like you said at the beginning, I work with clients who may be stuck, not fully understand where they're going in their life path. And I'm intuitively listening from the heart and just bringing in guidance and wisdom that they need, and possibly some tools or techniques that are unique to them.
Wow, and it's such a lovely journey to be on, and to just working with people's energies. And I think there's a lot of stuff that happens, and you know a lot more of this than I do of it, just subconsciously in our bodies. That if we don't kind of sometimes just slow down and stop and listen to them, that it's it's true, this kind of energy work that really helps to release those kind of those trapped energies.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it takes nearly for us to get to the headache or the migraine, to get to that stage where there's something physically wrong with us, to actually say, I need to do something for me. And sometimes we don't actually realize the simplicity of pausing or stopping. And I think that is really powerful, to take those moments. And you know only too well, from the mindfulness point of view, taking those moments to say, actually, I need to mind me, and how am I going to do that for me?
And I'm really interested that what you were saying, that like you started this journey, am I right? You you got redundancy. Were you practicing the reflexology on your daughter before you had redundancy, or was that around the same time?
I suppose there I was traveling on the M50, 2014. I'd gone back to work after having my second baby, and I remember the M50, the traffic. And there's a particular moment that stands out where my children, they would have been very small, so like say 4 and 2. And I remember there's a moment they're on the stairs and they're waving out the window to me as I'm reversing out the driveway at 5:30 in the morning. And I just said, I had no work-life balance. I was on a spinning wheel.
Mhm.
And I suppose it came to that point where I was offered redundancy. That moment stuck in my mind, and with the support of my husband, I took the redundancy. And I suppose that was the catalyst for change. I listened to that nudge again and stepped into that. So I knew I wanted to stay at home for a little bit with the kids, and I did that. And it was then that the reflexology card fell on my head, no joke. And I goes, okay, this is a sign from the universe.
Tell me the reflexology, because you actually, I was looking you up on the background of this. You study reflexology with Roisin Graham. Actually, I know Roisin Graham a long time as well. Lovely, lovely person.
Oh, do you? Oh my
Yeah, no.
goodness.
Oh,
So
she lives very close to me. And but I think this, like, one of the cards hit you on the head or something. Was it like I just think there's so many different little things that happen to your life, that like it's like the universe kind of literally knocking and saying, this is time to do this. So tell me about that. What happened with the card?
it's funny. Yeah. I would have gone to Roisin Graham for my own reflexology session. So after I had my children, 2009, had another baby, 2011. So I was going for myself. So in 2014, Roisin, here I am. I am exhausted. What am I doing? Will I take redundancy? Won't I? And I remember she just goes, I kept going back. She introduced me to Reiki. So she goes, Helen, Reiki keeps coming into your sessions. Let's do it. And I goes, oh, I love the reflexology. What's Reiki? So with that, then I then initiated the sessions. Roisin, forget the reflexology. Yes, I love it, but I want Reiki. So she introduced me as part of the reflexology session. And I loved the focus and clarity that it brought. So when I had that decision to make on redundancy, I was able to say yes. And
Yes.
during one of our sessions, Roisin had said to me, why don't you do reflexology, Helen? She had been showing me the points on my hands that I went home and did on my daughter for the previous 4 years. So she
Wow.
goes, and in my daughter's face, I could see the instant relief. And then my daughter would say, Helen, Mammy, you know, when the kids call you by your name, will you do rub my feet, ma'am, and rub my hands? So I was going, wow, this is magic, what the reflexology was doing. So it was very intuitively almost led. Roisin could see it in me. I then saw it in myself. So then she said, do the reflexology. I said, okay, I'll do it for Leah. So literally went home from that session going, ah, no, 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 no. And she'd give, I got goosebumps now as I'm saying this. She had given me a card when I'd started with her, 2009, and that card fell out of my wardrobe. So I literally rang her and said, you won't believe the sign I've got from the universe. So with that, I started to trust in those nudges and whispers from the universe. And I think that's magical. I never would have moved into this journey without listening to all those whispers.
It's just it's such a lovely way to come into it as well, because there's I love listening to so many stories about people that come into this type of energy healing or reflexology. And now we are back after a quick commercial break. For the first time ever, in the middle of an interview, my Wi-Fi just went down, and we literally just been talking about it as we came back on about the energies and universe. And I actually remember one day I was up in the Hill of Tara, and people were talking about how there was a real kind of a playful energy around, and then suddenly so it was like someone that had not put their handbrake on in their car, and it rolled back down the hill and kind of blocked the entrance to the Hill of Tara at the time. And everyone was saying, geez, there's just a strange energy around today. And it's just when I came back on, I was like, that was just weird. But before we were interrupted, I wanted to actually ask you to speak, and I don't know if you heard me kind of saying it before we cut off, about just about Reiki actually for people, because I've studied Reiki before, and up to level 2, and I loved it, but I always have a hard time explaining to people what Reiki is. I think it's kind of thing you need to experience rather than tell someone what it's about. Would I be right?
Oh, absolutely. And I will always say that before you go on to learn it, come for a session to experience it. Basically, it's life force energy, and that's what you're channeling. So I'm not using my energy, I'm using the energies from the life force. And again, we're bringing that energy to bring in clarity and focus, the deep sleep. So 1 hour session is equivalent to 4 hours sleep. And I think that's what I kept in those early days when I didn't know what it was. I kept going back for that. I want more of this. I want more of this. I slept better, and the clarity and focus that I received. So I always speak from my experience. If you would like Reiki, that's what it did for me, but everyone is different. Um, so yeah, it's a wonderful treatment. You're working on your chakra systems, your energy systems, and you're clearing each of them. So sometimes we may be stagnant or stuck in our voice, our throat. We may not speak our truth, may not express who we truly are. So you may be getting reoccurring throat infections, a cough. So it's clearing that energy around any stagnant, stuck energy in the throat chakra. So I think it was my first love and introduction to energy work. And I quickly went through the levels and did the teacher level without intending to teach it or bring it in and use it. But again, during my sessions of reflexology, lymphatic drainage, whatever it was, the client came for a massage, Reiki would always come in. And I think that's changed the session completely, because it wasn't just a massage. It wasn't just lymphatic drainage. And then as I work intuitively and from the heart, yeah, it may be that the angelic healing will come in. So I'm going to go, actually, it's the angels that are showing up for you today. This is what I'm guided to bring in. And having that relationship with my clients, that they trust in me to allow whatever is coming in to flow, it just changes the session completely, because I'm working from my true, authentic self. They're setting their intention, and then it just takes it to another level. It's phenomenal.
It's amazing. I can just see the joy in your face as you're talking about this. And it just the thing that comes to me is that it's just like everything is just flown out energy wise. And there's one phrase actually I know you use about you be authentically you. And it's kind of, I think it's, is it from your like, it's like if for anyone, like lots of people work from their value system from inside it. And it just seems to me that you work you're very authentic to yourself. Would it be right?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I always will bring in my authentic self in my work, in my life. So being true to me. And I love where Brené Brown has a lovely quote or a practice that she says every day you're letting go. You're letting go of what we think we're supposed to be so we can embrace who we are. And I think that's been really important for me, that every step I took on my journey, my healing journey, I'm constantly coming back to, well, who am I? What is my true voice? What's inside of me, whether it's my hobby that I want to invest in, my relationships, who do I want to be around, the tribe, I call them my tribe, those people who get me and really know me. And that it's okay to say, I'm actually tired today. And there's nothing behind that. I'm just going to be me. And I think that's the biggest journey that I've been on, constantly being true to who I am. And I guess, like you just said, it brings me joy. I come alive inside when I am myself. Now, don't get me wrong, it's really courageous to step in and do this work and be tremendously courageous to be yourself, because we're so taught to not be ourselves, not trust our intuition, not be who we're meant to be. So it does take courage, but I think everyone that steps into my healing space that I hold, they see that, they feel that, they know that, not only from me, but through their own journey of healing. So whether they come because they have a headache, it comes back to their authenticity and who they are and what they love and what brings them joy. Sometimes they've forgotten that because we're so caught up.
I like there's some, I feel like I want to go through all the different type of treatments you work on and say, tell me more of that, tell me more of that. And one actually does jump out is the lymphatic drainage. Because it's me going off on a tangent, but I remember a couple of years back, I was doing a charity race for a very special girl, and it was like 4 half marathons in 4 days, and after it, I actually felt in the side of my neck, it was just like a blockage after it. And someone actually said to me, that's you need kind of lymphatic drainage. Now, of course, maybe me, I actually forgot all about it and I just kept running and doing other things and kind of it went after it. But can you tell me about like what's involved in lymphatic drainage and like and how and the how much it helps our bodies as well?
I suppose so. If you press here at your collarbone, so just above your collarbone, so when you shrug your shoulders and you press with your fingernails,
Okay.
and you press in here, can you feel how tight it is?
Yeah.
You're really digging in. Can you feel?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a sign that your lymphatic system is congested.
Okay.
So it will show up, like you said, you were inflamed here. It will show up as inflammation, swelling in the body, a stuffy nose, sinus, ringing in the ears, a swollen knee, like you've done an injury or whatever. Lymphatic drainage is like the dustbin truck, and I suppose it carries all the waste out of the body, so reduces that inflammation. But also, if you get a cut, will actually bring white phagocytes, white blood cells to that area to heal it. So it speeds up healing if you've had any surgery, any injury, and also boosts your immune system. So even in the shower every morning, this is what I would show my clients so that they can do it themselves, pressing
Wow.
just here. But we've lymph nodes everywhere. And I suppose moving into that as a therapy, I didn't actually realize we've lymph nodes everywhere in our body, from
Wow.
our head to our toe. So I'm working on the main lymphatic sites: your clavicle bone, under your arms, your belly button, and your groin, the back of the knee.
Yeah. Okay. As you're saying, I'm going, Stephen, you need to book an appointment here. the but it's like I'm just fascinated by the amount of different things that you've studied over time. And there's one big thing that I know because you contacted me recently about how much it has changed as well. And if you're comfortable now talking about it, because there is a course that you did just recently in the Arthur Findlay College in London in mediumship and spiritual development, and about bringing those spiritual skills to the fore. And can you tell me a bit about mediumship?
Oh, I think I'll have to start about the nudges again that I got from the universe. So I had set my intentions at the beginning of the year in January, Arthur Findlay College. And I think I just I'd written it down. I knew it did so much work on mediumship, but wasn't quite sure. So I think in May time, I actually contacted the college. I had to take some action. Obviously, every intention you set, you do need to be responsible. So I took some action. and emailed the college again. What am I doing? Oh my goodness. And they said, no problem, Helen. What course would you like to pick? So I picked the spiritual development and mediumship, and they emailed me back to say, you're number 20 on the waiting list. Would you like to be on the waiting list? And I said, absolutely. So from May, I kept going, setting my intention every single day. I'm going to Arthur Findlay, and I'm going this year. I knew the course was on in October. I'm going October 2022. And 2 weeks to go. The college, just before the 2 weeks were up, so it began on the 1st of October, I got an email to say, Helen, you have been chosen. Would you like to still come in 2 weeks' time? And again, it was that whisper from the universe to say, Helen, do it. So obviously with the buy-in from my kids and a wonderful husband, they were happy, and they knew I wanted to do this, but fully didn't understand what it was, where I was going. And with that, checks that had issued in my name, this is, you won't believe this, from 2017, I had not received. And that's where the money came. I was available that full week, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is magic.
We have to reverse back a small bit here. You're telling me that when they sent you that mail to say you had the place, you weren't sure how you were going to get there either. And suddenly, out of nowhere, something from 2017 appeared.
Yeah, and I said to my husband, my husband said, yes, Helen, go for it. And literally that was at 6 o'clock on a Friday evening, and literally the next morning, like less than 24 hours later, this all unfolded. And I have no words for it, but I really knew that I was going to be there. So that knowing, I knew I was going to be on that course. So I was very blessed to be there.
I love stories like this.
So I still believe that spirit, the universe, was guiding me. Helen, this is your next practice that you need to unfold. So I suppose when you ask me what is mediumship, I had to explain that, because I do believe in magic and miracles. And that's why I listened to the calling then to say, yes, it is for me. So I suppose spiritual mediumship is what I do. So I'm simply a vehicle between the spirit world, so your loved ones up in heaven and you here down on earth. I work openly and empathically, so I don't use tarot cards or crystals or rituals, and I don't decide what messages or who comes in. So I basically allow the energy to move me. My feet are firmly on the ground when I do this work. Like with any of my work, I'm very grounded. And I allow the messages to come in, and it's been tremendously healing. But I think what was most important was that the week I embedded myself in that experience, I got to experience firsthand being the recipient when my loved ones came forth, and there was so much healing in that. So I'm in awe that this is where I am now. When I started off with reflexology, and here I am stepping into mediumship.
What I'm hearing, and I'm loving all the way through this, is that it's like a beautiful journey, but there's no destination. It's like we're just flowing with whatever comes and just enjoying life day to day. And I just love that so much. There's one thing actually you just alluded to, and actually one thing I definitely want to talk to you about, because I know you're a master of this, is grounding, because you just mentioned there a second ago as well. And when our friend Donna Bacon actually was on the podcast a few weeks back, we were speaking about you because we're talking about grounding and how you introduced her to it as well. And it's a massive thing within mindfulness, about mindful movement and mindful walking. And many people don't realize that a lot of it is to do with literally grounding ourselves and just connecting back in with the earth. Can you tell me about your own practice for grounding? Because I know it's a very big part of your life.
I suppose it's being back to being authentically me. I loved walking barefoot as a kid. We grew up on a farm, so we were constantly running down the fields in our bare feet. And for me to be authentic, I had to go back there and do that walk barefoot. So, oh, Helen, you're nuts. Why are you walking barefoot? I goes, no, there's something in this for me. So I suppose I was remember, I loved it as a child. So, and I think when you do something you love, it completely changes you as a person. So I didn't realize the science behind grounding until I kind of stepped into being a therapist. So I always would have walked barefoot, being out in nature. So just really awakening my senses and being aware when I walked barefoot. So I forgot about the thoughts, the to-do lists, and that awareness came in that I could smell, I could taste, I could experience when I was barefoot. So I suppose that's twofold. That's your awareness coming in, and the grounding then was allowing me to connect to Mother Nature, Mother Gaia, and just being gentle, slowing down, and having that deep sleep and knowing there's something behind this. This is amazing. My mind would be completely clear. And it became a daily habit that actually I don't like noise sometimes. I've gone, oh, turn down the music, turn down the radio, turn down the noise. I need to get out and ground. And the kids now are brilliant. They'll come with me and walk barefoot around the garden. And they now know, Mom, I actually need to ground now. So yeah, it's just become a daily habit without actually starting off as what am I doing, or I need a habit, I need something to do. It just become, and then because I do it every day, I can see the benefit. And this is funny because I actually was going, what am I going to tell Stephen Downey when I speak to him? And a client sent me a voice message 2 days ago to say, Helen, I just want to say, I met you 6 years ago. And through the phenomenal work we've done together, I remember the very first technique that came in for me. I didn't actually know the wisdom that you were bringing forth, but I still do this technique to this day. I put my feet on the ground every morning as I get out of bed, and I'm grateful for the journey that I'm on. And she goes, you absolutely changed my life by this simple technique. And I was blown away by the timing of that message, to receive it, to be able to share it now today. And for her love and gratitude that she actually said, I didn't know where my journey was taking me or why I was drawn to you, Helen, but I knew it was you. So yeah, grounding is very much part of me. And it's amazing when you spoke about the Hill of Tara, because when I go to the Hill of Tara, I'm immersed in that energy. It's completely different from my back garden. And I'll take off my wellies and I'll walk barefoot in the Hill of Tara. And the wisdom that Mother Nature gives me in Tara is different from my back garden. So I know I need to plug into the Tara energies to gain that wisdom and insight. And it's almost like Mother Nature is teaching us. But sometimes we're so plugged into work, relationships, our career that we don't actually see, hear, and feel the experience. So my whole purpose is just to walk and be in nature. And I allow that experience in.
That is pure. And it's funny about the Hill Tara. My wife thinks I'm crack sometimes. Because I'd never walk barefoot in the back garden. But when I go to the Hill Tara, I take my shoes off and I just walk around. I don't know why, but I've always walked around the Hill Tara with my shoes off. And I think sometimes we need to just let go of kind of rules and just be. And it's one thing I just love, just kind of, I can't even explain it. And that's what I love more, that sometimes we have to just go with these things. And there is a beautiful, beautiful energy around there. And my kids go for the ice cream, I go for the barefoot walk.
Oh my goodness, that is so, so lovely. Yeah.
Listen, I'm absolutely loving our conversation. And I could talk about all the different treatments for a long, long time, but I do, of course, because it's the Mindful Living Guide, I have to talk about mindfulness, and we talk about grounding, but I want to bring the conversation back more towards kind of mindful living and your perspective on it, because the one thing I've loved about this show and all of our guests that we've had is that every single person has a different perspective to life, to be mindful, to whether that's gratitude, whether what it is. And I love gaining that experience from each person I talk to. So I have to ask that question is, what does mindful living mean to you?
I suppose it means mindful living means giving myself permission to be in that moment. So whether it's worry or fear, just allowing me to be in that. And I know that as I allow that, the magic will come in those moments where there is stillness, where the mind does quiet. And I grab those opportunities daily, a number of times, just to bring in that stillness. Where am I right now? So I will use my breath. So sometimes I think we forget to breathe, and I'll bring my breath right down to my toes, breathing in and breathing out. But it was very significant that yesterday our electricity was off with the storm from midday until late last night, 9 o'clock. So we lit the fire, and I just thought, this is such a mindful moment. So we're in the dark, we've candles. It was so beautiful. The crackling of the wood and the kids, and we were just listening. And this is a mindful moment. And nobody said anything. And for that moment, there was stillness. And it was such a treasure. And as we moved out of that moment, we said, look, let's tell stories. So we began to tell stories, and each of us took a turn. And by being mindful, those who were speaking, but the others, we were listening. And I think, isn't that a mindful moment? Isn't that being mindful to listen? And it was so magical. And the laughter. So we were in that moment together. So I don't know if I've answered your question, but those really stand out.
No, I think you absolutely do. And there's one part that you beautifully mentioned there as well, is that it's allowing ourselves to be fearful as well. Because there's a lot of people that certain emotions are perceived as a negative emotion, as a strong emotion. And sometimes it can be a lot of healing and a lot of release from just allowing ourselves to experience the emotion. Not try to hide it, and just experience it. Is what it is, and this too shall pass.
Absolutely. And I think when I do that in my stillness, I always say there's no right or wrong way. Even by trying, I've succeeded. So yes, if it is that emotion that comes up, fear, stress, or whatever, I've succeeded, because yes, I recognize you, I see you. And then the natural flow of the stillness and the calm will come in. Now, it is hard, but it takes practice. So I think I grab those opportunities to do them daily, to be feet firmly on the ground and be authentically me.
It's just a lovely conversation, and I'm just enjoying it so much. I like to ask guests as well. Is there something that I haven't talked about that you'd love to talk about?
Well, do you know what? I was only thinking during lockdown. So I moved into online healing, and I suppose a client spoke, Helen, will you do online healing? And I was going, what's online healing? So I'm again, the universe nudging me, pushing me in the right direction. And I think what came up for me was the connection to the angelic realm, that it was more intensified. So, like you said there, it flowed. So it flowed to me, and I didn't know who was coming in. And I remember this very particular moment that I could see the angelic being coming in, what they were wearing and what they meant for that client. And I listened, I trusted what was coming in. And in the end, I began to describe what was coming in, and the simplicity of the healing. And it was actually St. Teresa of the Little Flower. So I'd never worked with her before, hadn't been attuned to her, but I was amazed of the simplicity. So that was such an eye-opening moment for me to say, Helen, you must continue doing this. So through word of mouth, people then referred me, and I was busy April, May in 2020 when my doors were closed to seeing people in person. And it was St. Teresa of the Little Flower who came forth. So I was blown away by that. And her mantra, or her way of living, was so simple. And I think that comes back to mindful living, the simplicity of mindful living.
No distractions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Helen, if people want to contact you and look for a treatment or just discuss anything that we've talked about more, what's the best way for people to contact you?
I have a lovely website. It's Helen Colgan healingheart.ie, and my contact information is there via email. My phone number is up there. But yeah, I think sometimes when you connect with someone, it's to see their vibration, their energy. Even looking at my photograph, you'll know if I'm for you. But absolutely, I do a call, which is free, a consultation call. And sometimes in that moment, yes, I want to work with you or whatever. But yeah, www.helencolganhealingheart.ie.
Brilliant. And I'll keep all of those details up on our show notes, so that when this episode come out, people will be able to contact you and get in touch and find out more about living our authentic self. Helen, thank you so much for coming on the show, for chatting and putting up with the energy that cut us off halfway through. But it's been an experience, and I've really, really enjoyed this conversation. And I honestly mean that from my heart. I've learned so much from it, and I'm sure our listeners will too. So, Helen, thank you so much for being on the Mindful Living Guide.
Thank you so much, Stephen. But I think that little energy burst was because we both work from our heart space. And I think that was the universe just giving us a little nod. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. You put me completely at ease the minute we connected. So thank you so much, and for taking that random call back in 2020 when I said I had a dream about Stephen Daly.
Oh, I'll never forget it. It's amazing. I just love the way the university works like that. But listen, thanks again, and I really really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
I think you'll get from that conversation that I really enjoyed talking to Helen, and it's part of my fascination into energy healing and the fact that I don't fully understand how it works. I just know whenever I go for a healing session like that, it does work, and I do feel better for it. Whether it's that extra sleep I get, or whether it's just my chakras just releasing. But it's fascinating. It's fascinating. So listen, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I really hope you got something from it, and that it might be something that you might explore yourself. So I'll leave all the details on the show notes, as I said, if people want to contact Helen. And listen, thank you so much. The podcast is just going from strength to strength every week. I'm actually blown away about how popular it is and the feedback I'm getting, and it's just me, just following my passion, and no agenda, just putting it out there, and seeing where it lands. So thank you so much again for sharing your time and listening to the Mindful Living Guide.